unity amongst the jurors, we are still unable to reach a unanimous decision.
YNW Melly has been stuck in that cell for 6 long years, waiting on a verdict that felt like it would never come. But now, the wait is finally over. Word is, the delay was intentional, just so they could hit him with the death penalty after Florida changed the rules.
That's why they waited so long to take him to trial. They was waiting for that law to pass.
The verdict just dropped in. Nobody saw it coming. In this video, we're breaking down everything. The law they waited on, the courtroom drama, and Melly's reaction when the decision finally hit. Let's get into it. The streets have been holding their breath for a verdict that kept getting pushed back. The case against YNW Melly seemed solid, but the justice system moved at a crawl. Pre-trial motions dragged out as Melly's legal team fought for his bond, while prosecutors pushed back hard, arguing the charges were too serious and he posed a flight risk. The judge agreed with the prosecution, keeping Melly behind bars with his future uncertain. So why the holdup? The case was complex, and investigators were combing through every detail. COVID-19 delays made things worse, causing major disruptions in court systems nationwide. Melly's prolonged incarceration without a verdict sparked debate. Some demanded his release. Others saw his charges as reason enough to keep him locked up. The situation drew comparisons to the legal battle of Tay-K, real name Tamar Trayvon McIntyre, showing just how tangled high-profile rap cases can become. Tay-K's legal troubles became a cautionary tale about a young artist's lost potential and the dangers of reckless decisions. Still wondering how that connects? Let's take a quick look back at what happened. In July 2016, Tay-K was arrested and charged with capital murder for his role in a deadly home invasion. Because he was a minor at the time, he was placed under house arrest while awaiting trial. But Tay-K had other plans. On March 27, 2017, he cut off his ankle monitor and went on the run, sparking a nationwide manhunt. During his time as a fugitive, he used social media and his music to document his escape. While on the run, Tay-K traveled through several states and continued engaging in criminal activity. On April 23, 2017, in San Antonio, Texas, he was allegedly involved in another robbery that ended with the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Mark Anthony Saldivar. Witnesses claimed the altercation stemmed from a dispute over a drug deal. Amid this chaos, Tay-K released his now infamous track, The Race, which detailed his run from the law and his defiance of the justice system. The music video, which showed him posing next to his own wanted poster, quickly went viral. While the song launched him into the spotlight, it also cast a harsh light on the severity of his crimes and the pain left behind. His run ended on June 30, 2017, when U.S. Marshals captured him in Elizabeth, New Jersey. But his legal problems were far from over. In July 2019, Tay-K was found guilty of murder and 3 counts of aggravated robbery in connection to the original 2016 home invasion. He was sentenced to 55 years in prison for the murder of Ethan Walker, along with additional sentences for the robberies. Tay-K also faced additional years due to the robbery charges. Then, in November 2019, he was indicted once again, this time on a capital murder charge for the killing of Mark Saldivar. Convicted, he could be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or even face the death penalty. Prosecutors have argued that letting him out would risk repeating another situation like Tay-K's. Meanwhile, YNW Melly's prolonged pretrial detention has sparked intense public debate and widespread media attention. His case has become a key example in discussions about the fairness of the justice system, especially when it comes to holding high-profile defendants for extended periods before a trial. Melly's time behind bars without a verdict has had deep consequences. Legally, it gave his defense more time to prepare a stronger case. But personally, it meant facing the psychological toll of sitting in jail with no clear end in sight. Professionally, it paused his music career, stopping tours, recordings, and wills, and opportunities that could have propelled him further. Public opinion about Melly's situation is divided. Supporters have rallied around him with online petitions and trending hashtags like #FreeMelly, arguing that he's being punished before a conviction and deserves a fair trial and bond. On the other hand, critics highlight the gravity of the charges against him and the potential threat he could pose if released, stressing that justice for the victims must come first. Media coverage has further shaped public perception. News reports and true crime podcasts have examined the case in detail, often comparing it to other controversial trials and highlighting the broader issues with the justice system's handling of serious Criminal allegations involving celebrities. High-profile cases like TK's have set a precedent for how the justice system approaches celebrities facing serious charges. The dramatic nature of the allegations against YNW Melly, combined with his celebrity status, has made his case a constant fixture in headlines and online conversations. A major concern surrounding Melly's potential release. On bond is the risk, however small, that he could flee or become involved in additional criminal activity. This fear is intensified by his fame and influence as a successful artist. The judge's decision to deny bond reflects an effort to reduce that risk and avoid a repeat of what happened in the TK case. But Melly's prolonged detention carries implications that extend beyond his individual situation. It has sparked larger conversations about the balance between protecting public safety and preserving the rights of the accused. Criminal justice reform advocates have pointed to Melly's case as a powerful example of why bail reform is urgently needed, as well as to call attention to the conditions inside pretrial detention facilities. As the legal process moves forward slowly, the public remains sharply divided. Supporters of Melly continue to demand his release, citing due process and the presumption of innocence. Meanwhile, others argue that the severity of the charge as 2 counts of first-degree murder justifies his continued incarceration. Media coverage fuels both sides, with every court update reigniting debates across social media and news platforms. From the court's perspective, multiple factors influence the decision to deny bond. First-degree murder is one of the most serious offenses under U.S. law, often carrying penalties of life, imprisonment, or even the death sentence. In such cases, judges are more likely to deny bond due to the potential threat to public safety and the increased risk of flight. The strength of the prosecution's case also plays a role. If the evidence suggests a high likelihood of conviction, the court may see pretrial detention as necessary to prevent witness tampering, evidence destruction, or further crimes. There's also a strategic element to denying bond. Keeping a defendant in custody can increase pressure to accept a plea deal or cooperate with prosecutors' common tactics in complex, high-stakes cases where the state seeks to avoid the uncertainties of a jury trial. The potential impact of pretrial detention on the outcome of a case is substantial. For YNW Melly, being incarcerated limits his ability to actively participate in his own defense. Restricted communication with his legal team, limited access to resources, and challenges in gathering supporting evidence can all hamper the defense's strategy. This often creates pressure to move the trial along quickly, an urgency that may or may not benefit the defendant. Public perception also plays a crucial role in judicial decisions, especially in high-profile cases like Melly's. Courts are highly aware of the media scrutiny and public opinion surrounding such trials. Granting bond to someone accused of a serious crime can provoke backlash, potentially leading the public to believe the justice system is being too lenient. On the other hand, denying bond is often seen as a sign that the courts are taking public safety seriously, even if it raises concerns about punishing someone before a conviction. To see how bond decisions can vary, look no further than about 1,500 miles west in California, where Suge Knight was granted bond under similar serious charges. Knight's defense team, led by attorney Thomas Mazzoro, made several arguments to support their bond request. They cited Knight's health issues, including blood clots and other medical concerns that were allegedly not being properly addressed in custody. Additionally, they emphasized that Knight was not a flight risk due to his strong ties to the local community and family. Knight's legal team also pointed to the financial strain he faced while incarcerated. They argued that remaining in custody prevented him from managing his business interests and legal affairs, leading to severe economic hardship. Prosecutors pushed back hard. They highlighted Knight's extensive criminal history, which included previous charges for assault, robbery, and other violent offenses. The prosecution portrayed Knight as a serious threat to public safety, emphasizing his alleged involvement in violent crimes. They also cited concerns that Knight could tamper with witnesses or obstruct justice if released. Despite these arguments, the judge decided to set bail, ultimately assigning a bond of $25 million, one of the highest ever in California. This amount reflected the court's view of Knight as a higher-risk defendant. Knight's legal team argued that the bond was excessive and functionally denied him the opportunity to post bail. Later, the court agreed to reduce the bond to $10 million, which remained a steep figure but slightly improved Knight's chances of release. Regardless of where you stand on why Melly hasn't been granted release, one thing is clear: this case shows no signs of ending anytime soon. While the public debates bond and justice, the feds seem to be playing 5D chess, while the rest of us are just playing spades. In the initial trial, prosecutors brought out what they called digital receipts to claim that Melly had confessed to the crime in an Instagram exchange with Pezzi Gambino. On October 26, 2018, Pezzi messaged Melly asking if he was okay. Melly allegedly replied, "I did that, SH." But Melly's defense attorney, Stuart Adelstein, tried to undermine the message's credibility by pointing out that Melly typically spelled that as dat in his texts and social media posts. Prosecutor Christine Bradley, however, pushed back by presenting other messages and even lyrics from Melly's song Melly Fix That, where he did use conventional spelling, suggesting the Instagram message could indeed be authentic. The prosecution also presented surveillance footage showing Melly and his crew getting into a Jeep before the fatal shooting. Hours later, police found the vehicle with victims Christopher Thomas Jr. and Anthony Williams dead inside, both killed by gunfire. Ballistics experts determined that the shots were fired from inside the vehicle, specifically from the area where Melly had been sitting, even though no firearm was recovered and Melly had no traces of gunpowder residue on him. Evidence pointed toward an internal shooting, ruling out a drive-by.
And my determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. Shooters at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds were going in.
At one point, the prosecution called gang expert Danny Polo to the stand to testify about Melly's alleged ties to the G-Shine Bloods. Polo asserted that Melly wasn't just loosely affiliated, he was heavily involved, fluent in gang codes, and regularly used gang terminology in his communications.
And what is the perk mean?
Perk is a term used by a member of G-Shine to refer to each other. So, calling each other bro or G, something.
The state presented a series of photos and text messages to support their claims, implying that the murders could have been gang-related, although they never clarified how the gang directly benefited. They also leaned heavily on digital forensics. FBI Special Agent Brendan Collins used phone records to chart the movements of Melly and Bortland's devices on the night of the murders, while the phones pinged near the scene. It couldn't prove they were together at every point in time. Miramar Police Detective Mark Moretti added that no phones registered at the exact crime scene because Melly's location services were turned. However, surveillance footage helped track Melly's movements, including when rapper Frito Bang picked him up after the incident. BSO DNA analyst Kurt Rhodes tested several items from the Jeep, like a water bottle and a spent shell casing, but found no conclusive match to Melly. Still,